Welcome to Moving Through and Beyond, a podcast dedicated to sharing inspired journeys of redefining life, vision, and purpose after immense hardship and grief. My goal with this podcast is to give you hope and to let my guest journeys inspire you to make the choice to keep looking up. I'm your host, Carey Conley. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Moving Through and Beyond podcast. I'm Carey Conley, your host, and I get the pleasure to bring in some super special people in my life who have been great friends, colleagues in the speaking world. And this is my friend, Bella Vasta. And I am so excited you are here, Bella.
Thanks for having me. This place is beautiful.
Yeah. So Bella has done a lot of things. I'm going to have her share her story. She is a speaker, podcast host of your own podcast, right?
Yes, Bella in Your Business.
Bella in Your Business, right? Mm-hmm. Very nationally recognized for your coaching and your speaking and your pet sitting business. I read all of your accolades in your bio. I'm like, wow, you know somebody for so long,
right,
as friends and colleagues, but you don't know like all the stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So you're the bomb.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, it takes one to know one, and I think that's one of the most important life lessons is you have to have strong, amazing people around you, which is why we instantly bonded after my brother was your Uber driver.
Oh my gosh, Bella, I totally forgot that part of the story. I was thinking this morning, how did Bella and I originally meet?
Right. I got a random call from you and you're like, hi, you're not going to believe this, but your brother was my Uber driver. He was going to school for his pilot's license and wanted to make some extra cash and was like, I met this lady and you started talking to him as you do to everyone that is in your presence. And he told you what I did and you called me and I was like, you're awesome. Want to be on my podcast? And it was like history ever since, you know?
That is so funny. I totally forgot that part of our story. I was thinking that we met originally from our mutual friend, Gelly.
No,
and that was a different
solidified.
connection. So, it was meant to be.
Yeah,
I remember that now. So yeah, we instantly bonded because you and I are speaking kind of the same language. You know, different vehicles,
right?
But same language of leadership.
Yes.
I know that you coach a lot of people, and I want you to talk a lot about that.
Yes.
But you really hone in on leadership, hope, running a successful business, all the things. And I think that recently I've seen that you've expanded beyond just coaching pet sitter business owners, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. We've expanded. We dabbled a little bit in the housekeeping industry, but this year my main focus is really on helping any kind of small to medium-sized business understand that hiring doesn't have to be difficult. Because with the right people, just like friends, you could do anything in life. But if you are hostage in your business because you've got bad company culture or you're just dealing with those people or you can't hire the right people, you are now stunted in your growth, which does not help you propel your vision forward, which does not help propel a great life. And I believe that any person who is crazy enough to start their own business deserves to have a work-life balance, a savings account, and happiness, like the desire to choose life and not be suffocated by their business. And
I know
so
this is your passion is so much because you and I have worked with a lot of business owners.
Yes.
And I said this once at a luncheon, and I know you say this in a different way, that I meet a lot of people who are running a business that are busy and broke.
Yes.
Running really expensive hobbies.
Yes.
And it's because they don't know what you teach on how to scale the business, monetize it, balance it with your family life. I mean, all the things. So
one would argue that I think it comes down to exactly what you do, Carey, and it's being connected to their vision and their why. Because if you won't let that stuff keep you down. You're going to get knocked down a lot, more times than you're going to succeed. But it keeps you down if you're not strongly connected to that vision and that why that you talk about and teach so much.
Yeah. I'm honored that you mentioned me a lot about vision because, that's my whole passion, as you know, in my story. I've been honored to come to some of your retreats, do your podcast. I love that.
I refer to you all the time, especially when I get new people. I do these 20-minute complimentary consultations, and you can tell as a coach off the bat, if this is with someone that you can work with right now or they need a little bit more work. And a lot of times I'll say, you need to go listen to my podcast episode with Carey Conley. It'll make you cry. It'll really get to the crux of things. And you need to just do it and then let me know. And without a doubt, they're like, wow, I understand what you're saying now. I'm like, yes. So please go do the work and figure out your why and your vision there. Then come back to me. Then I can show you how.
Right.
But if you're not connected to that, we can't. And so I cannot tell you, your gift keeps on giving to my community so many times. So I'm just so grateful.
honored.
And of course, when you're like, hey, you want to come on my podcast? I'm like, absolutely. Let's figure this out.
Yeah, so good. So I want you to kind of talk a little bit about the back history of how you,
Sure.
How you got here.
Right. So I did not realize that I had an entrepreneurial spirit and that I was, as I humbly say, unemployable. And in college, while I was trying to buck college back because I just didn't like the institution, I started a pet sitting company. It was back in about 2002. And quite frankly, it was a way to get out of my parents' home because I was living there, going to ASU, getting a human communication degree, and they wanted to put a curfew on me. I didn't want a curfew. I wanted to be out with my boyfriend karaokeing to the wee hours of the morning. Now that I'm a mom, I understand where they were coming from, but I didn't then. And so I started it as a means to get out. But what happened is it grew into a six-figure business all around North Scottsdale with 10 employees that was nationally and locally award-winning. And when that happened, people started calling me and saying, how can I do what you do? Because back then, the pet-sitting, dog-walking industry was only just still at an infancy. We were still educating people, hey, this is an alternative to boarding or your friends and neighbors. Like there's a professional company that people make a living doing this. And so I started talking to people and I realized, wow, what is this? Like this is a natural high. And then when they would come back and they would be like, it worked. And I'm like, duh. Like I had to figure out a way to systematize it. So that morphed into downloadable classes. It morphed into the beginner started in stage, like exchanging time for money. But then I started talking about the same thing over and over again, and it wasn't fun to me anymore. I was like, it needs to be bigger. And not bigger, but like I realized that I have this thing placed on my life from God that it's to inspire, motivate, and motivate people into action, to change their I cans into I cans, to inspire hope, to let people know that the world is wrong and the only person they have to fight against is their own self and their own mindset. And so I'm on this mission where I get to do it through, it started off pet sitting and dog walking companies because that was my natural community. But after I had Olivia, which I'll tell you about, and sold the pet sitting company, I went full force into it. And then I was like, all right, I really want to start speaking. And so I did. And I just started speaking wherever they would let me. And now, now I'm speaking more about building your business through employees and the HR stuff and also leadership. Yeah. So, but yeah, there's a big story in the between of that.
Yeah, there is. Excuse me. So that's the part of why I wanted you to be here, Bella, because all of the guests that I bring on this show.
Yes.
Excuse me. All of the guests that I bring on this show are at a level of success like you, but they've all had something in their life.
Yes.
That was a major adversity. And so much of our life, especially with social media now, people don't see that.
Right.
Unless they're really good like you are about sharing their story publicly. So I would like you to tell the story about Olivia and kind of what happened there. And
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. So I got married late. I got married at 32. And I don't even know where to start. Let's see. So, long story short, let's just start off with a big bang. I have one of the world's smallest surviving female babies. She was born at 12 ounces. So if any of your listeners right now have a can of soda in their purview, pick it up. And that's how much my daughter weighed. I have a size 8.5 ring, and my ring fit around her leg. Her body was translucent. Her eyes were still fused shut. She was literally a fetus, and an inch shorter than a Barbie doll, just to give you a perspective of that. And everybody said she would not survive. I had her at 28 weeks, 5 days, so about 6 months. Like no amniotic fluid, my placenta started dying. Like everyone asks why, and that's the best reason I've gotten. But the bigger why, that's the scientific why. The why is because she is such a light on this earth, and I and my now ex-husband were given her for a purpose and for a reason, because we're both warriors. We could both go to NICU every day and be committed to it, and not just stick a trach and a vent in her 3 months into it because we really wanted to take her home. We were there for 6 months, 182 days. And every single day it was something new. Every single day I was there for 8 to 10 hours a day next to her incubator because I had a business that I had systems and processes set up. I always say to people, I say, what's going to happen if something happens to you or someone you love? Will your business fail, survive, or thrive? And I believe that it can thrive.
Yeah.
And you're not always in a growth stage. You can be in a maintenance stage, but it needs to still be there for you when you come back. Otherwise, you just have what did you say? A expensive
Busy,
hobby.
broke, expensive hobby. Yes.
Yes. And so systems and processes are vitally important. But during that time, it was hard. When you're in baby ICU, NICU, you can't have your laptop open. You can't be talking on the phone. Your nerves are shot. I learned how to literally live hour by hour. I had to push almost everybody out of my life because I was in literal survival mode. And I'm sure you've talked about that on here before. And but you know what? Throughout all of it, I'm really proud because I still had a community to talk to. And so when I would get ready in the morning, I would think, okay, what can I talk? What's something I can say to them? And you're really kind of saying it to yourself. And one was, I called it stoplight confessional. There was like a 3-minute stoplight every single time when I was going to NICU that I would just be sitting there. And so I'd get out and I'd be like, hey guys, remember when the clouds are out, the sun's always behind it, always keep jumping, which is my motto. Obviously it'd be a little longer than that, but I made it a point to try to still be, I would share what was going on. We started this Cake Pop Monday, which was the celebration of her Monday birthday. We were celebrating her birthday weekly because up until 3 months, everyone told me she could die at any moment. She was so fragile. The amount of surgeries or procedures or life-saving things that she had and all the tests and the ups and the downs, we'd get calls in the middle of the night. You would be sleeping, right? That's when you're most vulnerable and you're relaxed. And then all of a sudden to get woken up and being told that your baby just almost died, but don't worry, she's fine. That F's with you. That really messes you up. And but it's a love story. It's a happy story. We did come out. I saw so many babies die around me. I would walk in and I would feel death for the first time in my life. I didn't understand that medicine is an art and they really don't know everything. I was thinking of it as a business, how can you treat me this? This isn't good customer service. What are you doing, neonatologist? I don't know how all those nurses dealt with me for 6 months, knowing every day they came into work, I was going to be there for their whole full shift. But we got through it. And when we came home, we had 40 hours of nursing during the day, 40 hours of nursing at night. I had a concentrator, an oxygen concentrator in the middle of my home with a 50-foot oxygen cord on it. And Olivia had a feeding tube. And it was a feeding tube. It was called an NG tube, nasal gastric tube. And it went down her nose into her stomach into a place called the duodenum. I hope I'm saying that right. But I had to put that in her. I had to swaddle her, cut the tape, get the stethoscope on, push air through it, make sure it was in the right part of her. It was horrific. I am not a blood and guts. I am not a medical person. Interestingly enough, my ex-husband he was at work and school a lot of the times during this. And so we had, oh my gosh, 5 doctor's appointments a week at least. We had a different service coming in from the state, because they help, thank God. We had speech, OT, occupational therapy, speech therapy, feeding therapy. We went down to Tucson once a week to visit this lady who prevented Olivia from getting a G-tube, which would have just hindered her development even more, and she wouldn't be where she's at today. There was a lot of things that happened. And
this is people think of grieving because of death.
Yes.
What you're defining to me, Bella, is you were actually living and grieving at the same time.
Yes.
And that's so traumatic.
Yes. I couldn't have I couldn't believe my own thoughts because I didn't know what they were.
Right.
Okay, my baby's alive. Wait, she almost just died. Wait, is she gonna die? Is she really gonna die? What is she gonna be like in the future? Is she gonna be like stuck to a wheelchair? Is she gonna be like a normal kid? Is she gonna be able to play soccer? Is she gonna be dancing and laughing and having fun? Or are we gonna be chained to this thing? And oh my gosh, what did I do wrong? And my body failed me and I'm a failure. And I used to say, I'm so tired. I feel like a frying pan hit my face. And I know a lot of new moms feel that way, but this was like on a different level.
Yeah.
And then also having to relinquish control. I'm an entrepreneur. I control everything.
What do you mean we're controlling?
I had to have a village of people help me keep my child alive and help me work her into development from all of the therapies and from all the doctors and from all of the medicines. We were giving her medicines like 7 times a day and like 4 or 5 different ones. And it was insane. It was horrible. And once we realized that we're at the point where she's going to be okay, then the healing started.
Yeah.
I had postpartum depression, obviously. I had PTSD. Medical PTSD, they say, is worse than just like, if you were to see a car accident because it keeps happening to you again and again and again and again over a very long time.
Really gets into your body on a cellular
preach
level.
It. Yes.
And I am just learning more about this because obviously I'm losing my husband and my son.
Yes.
Almost 8 years ago now, 3 years apart.
Yes.
I am now just starting to really get to the process of, okay, this has really become a part of my
biology.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes. Your cells keep the trauma in it. And it's part of the healing that there's a book, The Body Keeps the Score. It's really big and it's really in depth, guys. But I highly recommend it if you're interested in this at all. But it talks about on the cellular level how your body does remember the trauma, even if you don't cognitively. And you walk around with that and it comes through in you. It's those little things where you get tensed up or you hear something or it's more than PTSD. It's like imprinted in you. Yeah. But the most beautiful thing is that the human body is so fantastic that it all literally can be healed.
It can be healed.
It can be healed and there's hope and there's resources and there's methodologies and modalities that you can access to really become the best person. You don't have to walk around with this trauma every day. And there's different levels of healing too, because you can't just jump to level 10.
Right.
You got to go through the stages, right?
And that's hard too, because this is where you have to really give yourself a whole lot of compassion.
And courageous and courage.
Yes, courage. Be willing to do the hard work and get through it.
Yes.
Which it's easier to keep yourself busy.
Right? Yep. I always ask people, what are you running from?
Yeah.
Why are you so busy?
Yeah.
Well, I go, well, what happens if you sit down? Can you be with yourself? Well, yeah, I like myself. No, like, can you literally be?
Yeah. I can totally relate to this, Bella, because this past year for me, I literally took a pause.
Yeah.
And that's where I started going, all right, I've got some stuff here that, and you said this to me early on in a very gentle way. Are you getting help? I actually went to a woman that she was a resource for you for a while.
Yes.
With doing the EMDR, yes. Now I'm doing that in Oklahoma where I'm living. So
that's so beautiful.
I think it's so important for people. So you mentioned a couple of things that helped you get through it.
Yes.
When you were going through it. One, you stayed active with your team.
Yes.
And I think that it's important for people to know that, yes, there are moments that you need to isolate. I certainly did. But I think what kept me going too was that I kept at least doing the thing that gave me the joy, which was pouring into other people like you did.
Yes. Yeah, living your purpose.
Right.
Living your purpose.
Yeah. Not totally shutting off, but doing what you can do that gives you joy.
Yes.
In little snippets, your little 3-minute stoplight. I love that. Having a community around you. I think it's also important that you mentioned that you had to shut some people off for a little while.
Yes.
And I totally get that too.
Yes.
I had to do the same thing.
Yes.
And that's hard because sometimes those people don't understand why they're right.
That's the first lesson. It's the first lesson in not managing other people's emotions that I got in my life, because I was brought up to be a good girl. You know, to not make anyone mad, be a good girl, be polite, put your own emotions aside.
Yep.
It was the first time that I had to actually get in touch with my own emotions, because you had to feel it to heal it.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, again, so hard. But, and I've heard your story, but not to this depth before, Bella. I mean, I'm sitting here thinking, wow. But you know what? The word warrior is so true about you.
Yeah.
And I can resonate with that as well.
Absolutely. That's why we have a bond. That's why we get each other from the moment we did, you know? It's why so much time can go by and we're still like no time has gone by. We have that bond because we have the same spirits about us. And that's why I admire so much of what you do, because the rock that you're able to throw in the pond, you don't see the tidal waves that creates. And I love other people like that. We need to stick together. Like, the world is just so dark. You turn on music and it just talks about horrible, dark, deep
so true.
things. Like,
I've started leaving the radio off in the car.
No, you have to really
I like
control.
the silence a whole lot better now. I get to really think things out. I pray, you know.
You
really
have
think
to
about my intentions for the day.
It's part of the healing. You become aware and conscious of what's around you.
Right.
You become aware and conscious of, are people draining you or are they uplifting you? How does your body feel around these people? Is it anxious? Is there something about them? Or do you feel like living purpose? Talk about the dating world. That's pretty difficult. But when you find those people, because they are out there, you just have to get in those circles. You know, I always dumb it down to, you're not going to find, you know, a CEO of a Fortune 100 company hanging out with a bunch of druggies on the corner. I mean, they're ambitious, yeah, go for it. But they're, you know, it's who you hang out with, and also that helps your healing or hurts your healing too. People distract you from it or they encourage you for it. I'm a verbal processor, so, and I'm very open, and I like the people in my life to know, to talk about that stuff, because it helps me. It helps when I say it, it becomes real. I can't keep it to myself. And but EMDR, let's talk about that really quick, because if anybody, I don't know if you talked about this on the podcast yet, but
I have not.
It's E like elephant, M like Mary, D like dog, R like Roger. And I forget what it's eye movement desensitization through processing, I think.
You did a great job.
Yeah? Okay, good. Basically, it's amazing magic. Its success rate is something between 70 or 85% for they started using it a lot on military people that have, you know, been in, seen some things. And what it does is basically, guys, when you are, let's say you're in a car accident, right? And you see a horrific thing. What happens is your brain doesn't process, oh my gosh, that's blood and that person's dying out. Like, it goes into survival mode. And when it goes into survival mode, it goes straight into your brain. So there's no processing that happens, which is why you have nightmares and anxiety and all of this stuff that comes from it. You can smell something, you can hear something, you can taste something, and it brings you right back, like it takes over your body. It's because, unlike most things in our life, our body sees it, it processes it, and it files it away. Right. It never got to process it. It put it straight in your brain raw. And so what this does is it connects your left and your right brain. It pulls out these memories. There is, you guys can Google it, there's a literal protocol for it. You can look it up. And with a licensed person that knows how to do it, they go through and they do it. And the interesting thing is that you think it's the trauma, but it actually goes so much deeper into like childhood trauma, which, guess what, guys? I don't care how great your childhood was. We all have it. And also, for anyone sitting out there listening right now that might think, oh, but it wasn't really that bad, or that happened to me, but I was just overreacting. You cannot compare your trauma to anybody else's. So true. You can't. You could stub your toe and that could be just as bad as my daughter in NICU. Do not negate that. Be courageous enough, as Brene Brown would say, you know, be courageous to be vulnerable enough to lean into it and be uncomfortable for a little bit, because you will. You know, probably you'll have nightmares, you'll have flashbacks, there's a lot of, you gotta feel it to heal it. And so I don't care what it is that you've gone through, you have to, and it sucks, dude. It sucks. Is that okay that I say that?
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
I've been watching my words.
I was going to say it.
It sucks, but you have to be courageous to do it, which means you also have to have people in your life that love you. You have a partner that you sleep with every night. They're going to know that you might be waking up in a cold sweat or crying or freaking out, or have to be like, okay, it is January 6th, and you are 40 years old, and we live on this street, and it is this date, and just start walking you through what you know to be true, and get you out of that, like, oh my God. But guys, if you can do it, you can live a whole new life. You can live and I'm like literally like walking proof of it. You can live the best life you've ever lived. I'm still healing. I'll always be healing. I'll always be looking at how can I get better? How can I raise my vibe? But if my purpose on this earth is to inspire hope into as many people as I can, I need to make sure that I am constantly filling myself up. I need to make sure I have the Carey Conleys and the Moving Through and Beyond podcast in my life. I need to make sure that I am a conscious participant of what I'm filling my life up with. So what I would ask your listeners right now is, what are you unconscious about right now? What is going on in your life today that it's just happening and you're not really actually taking inventory or notice of it? It's happening because it's just happening, not because you're making it happen, but because it's just happening. And what things can you change? One of the things that I changed was I would drive around in the car with the windows up listening to NPR. And it was very monotone. And yeah, it's a good news source. But I remember the one day that I put my windows back down and I started dancing in my car. And I was like, oh my gosh, who am I? Dancing has so much vibrational opening. Last night, I was going through the loss of someone in my life last night. They're still here on earth, but I decided in order for me to grow, I had to cut them out. And it's sad for me because I want to keep my old patterns of things. But that's not going to get me where I want to go. Yeah. And guess what? I put on my headphones, I started dancing, and I started crying because I have to feel it to heal it. Yeah. And it sucks.
It really does. And Bella is so brave because she ran straight into the healing right away. I unfortunately, put it off for a while.
I won't let you put yourself down that way. No. No.
I'm going to rearrange my words.
Okay.
It was a timing thing for me.
Yes.
The timing was a little bit later.
Yes.
Right? Because I was not aware of how much trauma there really was.
Yes.
I just realized that I just had to take care of things.
Yes.
Right? My daughter, right after losing my son, got engaged, married a year later.
Yes.
Baby,
yes. You had a lot of lovingly said distractions.
Yeah.
Things that were joyful
right.
and that you wanted to focus on, but also didn't allow you to sit in it. But maybe that was good because it needed to cool off a little bit.
Yeah.
Everything happens for the way it's supposed to.
You are giving me some grace.
My friends are not allowed to put themselves down in front of me.
And I think it's good for people to hear that it is your own pace. It is your own journey.
Yes.
It's so I had a mentor that I hired about a year ago, Bella, that when I decided to take this pause, I hired him to walk me through that process.
Yes.
Because what he helps people with is get rid of the trash in their head, right?
Yes.
And it was hard.
Absolutely.
Like the first 3 months I was working with him and not doing anything. I felt like I was coming out of my skin, literally. I called him one day going, I think I'm losing my mind over here. He goes, this is a part of the process.
Right.
I was like, okay, this sucks.
Yes.
This is exactly what I said to him.
It's uncomfortable.
Yeah, it totally is.
You're changing your patterns.
Yeah. But he also said to me, but Carey, you've got 60 years worth of stuff here. Mm-hmm. Give yourself some time.
Yeah.
And I have to tell myself all that. So I'm glad that you're bringing all that up. And you know what I really appreciated about you too, Bella, is that I shut down for a little while. And then I went to a networking event about 6 months after losing my son. Yep. And you were there.
Yep.
And of course, everybody else in the room was like, oh my God, how are you doing?
Yeah.
Coming up, giving me the, how are
the
you?
sad eyes.
And you just kind of waited. And you came up to me. I've never forgotten this.
I won't forget
said,
either.
I just want you to know that I'm not ignoring you. I'm just giving you space right now. I was like, thank you.
Yeah.
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 And it's because of what you've been through.
Right.
You understood.
Because it's so hard when you are going through things where you can't even manage your own emotions, or you're brave enough to actually, make your reappearance into the world. And then everyone wants to put their own emotions or send their sympathies, which it's coming from a good place, but now you're having to help take care of someone else's emotions.
Right.
Where you're already fragile enough. And so it's like, listen, I want to acknowledge you, and if you want to talk about it, I'm here, but I'm just really glad to see you out again. And it's so cool to see you, and let's tag along and I'll be your bodyguard or whatever it was. Like, it was
You were so good about that. And I've never, like I said, I've never
changing conversations with people too.
Yeah.
And like, oh, so yeah, it was really bad. So how are you doing?
Yeah.
And like flipping the script on people because it's tough.
Yeah. They just don't know what they don't know. And that's the thing, is that you can get upset by that and try to carry that emotion, but they don't know what they don't know, and you have to give them a whole lot of grace and mercy. They're just doing their best.
I know we don't have a lot of time, but one thing that I've learned big time, and this came from my own healing, is that, have you heard of like the big gulp versus the shot glass? Okay, so my whole life, I was told I'm too much. I'm too loud. I'm too excitable. I do things too fast, all this stuff, right? And so, I have 40 years on me. And so that really makes a lot of neural pathways. That really helps define who you are until you wake up and realize, no. And what I realized is that there are people that if you fill up a shot glass, with water, that's their capacity. And so if I'm a big gulp and I'm looking for you to give me what I give you and you just pour a shot glass into a big gulp, I'm like, where's the rest? And vice versa, if I take my big gulp that's full of water, I'm going to flood you out 10 times on the shot glass. And so realizing what people's capacity is, and I think the more that you heal, honestly, I really think the more that you heal and you're able to grow and find your purpose and live your purpose, I think the bigger your cup does get. But acknowledging to myself, it's not me. I'm not too much. I'm not too loud. I'm not too passionate. I'm not doing things too fast. It's just that we're different. And that's okay.
Yep.
And that's okay. And so if for anyone, any of the misfits listening, think about that. Think about just simply someone else just might not. I know I was a shot glass when I was going through NICU. I didn't have anything to give anybody.
Right.
I was a thimble probably. I had nothing to give anybody. And I was so overwhelmed by anything that anyone would try to pour into me. It was flowing over and I was flooded out.
Yeah.
And so I want you guys to think about that too. I want you to get EMDR because I think everyone should do it. I don't care what you think you need. And therapy is great. And think about that, the shot glass and the big gulp.
Yeah. Wow, so much good stuff, Mel. And I watch you now, obviously. Olivia's thriving.
Oh my gosh, she lights up a room and I have to tell her, she goes, Mom, is that a stranger or a friend? And I'm like, it's a stranger. She's like, okay. Or I'm like, this is a friend. And she's like, hi. And she hugs and she's so loving.
Such a sweetheart, so loving.
There's a reason why she's here. And there's a reason why she was given to her dad and I.
Yes.
Unfortunately, her dad and I didn't get along after all that trauma. And I had to make the decision to have a divorce. But to this day, he's such an amazing dad to her. And there's a reason why we went through all of that. And one of the things I always said in NICU, I was always like, Lord, you are not bringing me through this to not tell everybody about this.
Right.
And it's not that my stories focus around her, but it's the thing that I do use to open people's hearts, because hopefully anytime, and even on this podcast, I want you to feel like you just went to church. Like your heart is not the same way leaving this podcast or a speaking event that I do than when you came in.
Right.
If that happened, then I lived my purpose. And it's because I want people to take away what they need from it. And I want to inspire action, because it's not okay just to be motivated.
Yep.
Then you could go
last a nanosecond.
Yeah. I want you to be inspired to action.
Yeah.
So what are you guys going to do today after this podcast?
You were so inspiring, Bella. I wish I could spend all day with you.
I know, it would be so fun. You too, though.
We need to make that happen.
Yeah.
I appreciate your transparency. I appreciate all the amazing advice that you've given everybody to move through whatever adversity they're going through. It doesn't necessarily have to be like your story or mine. Because there are a lot of good things that you talked about, dealing with the healing that you need to go through, staying around positive people, cutting out of your life what you needed to cut out, and just taking care of yourself.
Yes.
And giving yourself a whole lot of grace and compassion. You are so inspiring.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks for having this
friend.
podcast.
I appreciate you. So I'm Carey Conley. I'm your host of Moving Through and Beyond, and I'm just here to remind you to keep looking up.
If you found this episode inspiring or helpful, please share it with a friend or a family member. In order to be successful on this mission, I can't do it alone. Connect with me at www.careyconley.com, and don't forget to sign up for my weekly Do It On Purpose newsletter. Let's build this life-giving vision movement together to end this epidemic, save lives, and create purpose.